Welcome in, everybody, to Vol Society Live on this Wednesday night in late November. My name is David Morrison. I am the Vol Society Analyst on the Vol Society Network. We got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to recap the Georgia game that took place last Saturday. We are going to preview the South Alabama game coming up this Saturday night with a 7:30 kickoff on ESPNU. Plus, we'll talk a little bit of Tennessee basketball. Great week for the men's hoops team, 2-0 on the year. Plus, we'll talk about coaching vacancies going across college football before we wrap up tonight and how that might affect the football team going forward. And we'll dive more into that in the show. Don't forget, as we go ahead and dive into the show, follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/UT Vol Society. Over 4,400 of you following along. Thank you very much for following. If you know any UT Tennessee volunteer fan that wants exclusive content of what's going on, not only with Tennessee football, but basketball and all the other sports going on at UTK, please tell them about Vol Society on Facebook. Also, thank you for our YouTube watchers who's tuning in tonight. Don't forget to subscribe, like the thumbs up. Even though we can't see the thumbs down anymore, but that's probably a good thing. No, just kidding. But yeah, also you can leave a comment in the live chat on YouTube and also on Facebook. I have the chat room open, so go ahead and type your questions in if you have anything. And also, don't forget, we're also on Twitter at Society Vol, so follow along with that. All right, all the business is out of the way. Let's go ahead and talk about this past Saturday in Knoxville as the number one team of the nation, the Georgia Bulldogs, came into town. The final score was 41-17. Georgia got the win. Honestly, the game kind of went the way I thought it was going to. I was not surprised Tennessee came out firing and got an opening touchdown. And I even went to the game with my dad, and I even told him, I was like, I'm not really surprised by this. And trust me, I was excited, just as everybody else in Neyland Stadium was, about getting that opening touchdown and getting the confidence. But we've kind of seen it this year, Tennessee playing to the level of an upper echelon competition. And like I said, it was a nice opening drive, but not really surprised by it. It was just I was wondering how the defense was going to respond when Georgia took their opening drive, and we kind of saw what I expected. They marched right down the field pretty easily. Cook got the touchdown, and then Georgia was off on the races. Now, Tennessee did hang in there for pretty much the first half, and we actually led the end of the first quarter against the number one team in the nation. And I know our founder, Brad, was very excited about it. Matter of fact, Brad is not with us tonight, controlling the chat room. He had other obligations, but promised to be joined back here next week. But, like I said, I kind of expected what I expected. I thought Tennessee would kind of hang in there in the first half, but I just was very concerned about the lack of depth going on in the second half, and it once again kind of reared its ugly head, and that's something that Coach Heupel is going to have to adjust to next year, with not only with recruiting but with the transfer portal, to get some depth for this team, because you saw what Georgia had on Saturday, 2-3 deep, always constantly rotating guys in and out, and Georgia has injuries just like us, just like Alabama, just like Ole Miss. But they pluck guys in right then and there and get them ready to play. And at times we've done a great job too. But, it just seems like they are more ready and more healthier, it seems like. And the final score played the end result. But like I said, to me, I'm happy for Tennessee. Made an effort at it. The crowd was a great crowd Saturday night. There's a lot of Georgia fans there, which was a little concerning. But, I guess if you're the number one team in the nation, you can puff your chest out a little bit more than usual. But, at least there was several hundred Tennessee fans there too. I shouldn't just say it was just like, when Georgia went to Vanderbilt, but I did see a lot of red and black at Neyland Stadium. But as far as like I said, just kind of expected what I thought, just kind of a kind of a dominating win for Georgia, and their defense is very fast and attacked our guys for the most part. And even Hendon Hooker kind of had an off night, despite putting up a pretty valiant effort, I guess. And I will even give credit to Joe Milton to a certain degree. When they pulled Hooker out to kind of just kind of save him for the rest of the year, even though it kind of at the beginning of his drive it got off to a bit of a sluggish start with a penalty, and but he put up a pretty valiant effort, and it builds confidence for him, whatever the future holds for Joe Milton. Cedric Tillman, what a performance he had. Like I said, we talked about how Hendon Hooker had a night off. Cedric Tillman had 10 catches for 200 yards. I mean, that is crazy to think. I mean, I meant to look up and see when the last time Tennessee had a 200-yard receiver in a single game. It's probably been years, to be honest with you. But very happy for him getting that accomplished. And he has really been the most improved player on this team to me. It seemed like last year he dropped some passes and kind of ran some wrong routes. Hello to my grandparents watching. But he has really done a fantastic job as far as his improvement from going from Jeremy Pruitt's style of offense, Jeremy Pruitt / Jim Chaney style of offense, to this up-tempo offense with Josh Heupel. And I'm very happy to see Tillman really emerging as the number one wide receiver. I still think Velvis Jones is a very great playmaker, and he got one of the touchdowns in the game. Well, also did Tillman. But to me, it seems like Cedric Tillman is that go-to down the field playmaker. And I think Velvis Jones Jr. does better as far as little designs and curl routes and stuff like that. And it's exciting. It's going to be very exciting to see what this offense is going to do. Obviously, I don't think Velvis Jones will be back next year. I mean, he could. But definitely Tillman is going to be a all-SEC style wide receiver next year. And hopefully Hendon Hooker can come back and make some more great memories up in Knoxville. That's really about all of the Georgia game. It is what it is. Georgia's number one for a reason. I thought Georgia, like I said, they have a excellent defense. They're very deep, very talented. We talked about the playmakers last week for them. But their offense is very good. I don't think to the level of what LSU ran last year, what Alabama ran last year, as far as putting up a lot of points. And it kind of deals with their quarterback play. I mean, Stedman Bennett, I will say, is a good quarterback, possibly floating the line of a great quarterback, but I don't think he's at the level of what Joe Burrow was 2 years ago and what Matt Jones was last year. I mean, but like I said, they have playmakers in the running back positions. Zaire Zeus White, I would give credit. Our Tennessee defense kind of shut him down for the most part, but he still ran off some good chunk yards. And then Cook, probably was the more explosive one, and others they penciled in throughout the night. And like I said, if Georgia's quarterback, whether it would be Bennett or Daniels, would play to the level of a Joe Burrow or a Mac Jones or even going back to a Tim Tebow or Peyton Manning, this could possibly be the greatest college football team of all time. They could easily put 60 on the board. And I'm not trying to disparage what Georgia's done. It's just how dangerous this team could have really been if they had a more dominant quarterback. But they're doing what they do, and like I said, their defense is really carrying them to the number one position. And once again, it looks like we're going to see in Atlanta, Georgia, and Alabama for the SEC championship. So that's kind of a wrap up of the Georgia game. We'll dive into South Alabama really quick. not much to talk about as far as the Jags go. They got a very nice offense. Their offensive coordinator is Major Applewhite, former Texas quarterback, and he's been offensive coordinator at various places, former Houston head coach. So now he's in Mobile. As far as playmakers go for South Alabama, they had been using Jake Bentley at quarterback, and Tennessee fans are very familiar with Jake Bentley from his time at South Carolina. Matter of fact, I think, a couple of wins against us. Of course, he has transferred a couple of times. He went to Utah for a little bit, and now he's used. I think surely he should be a super senior. I mean, he practically started his freshman year at South Carolina when he was supposed to be a senior in high school. So he's been around the block a time or two. Brad is on. Cool. I thought I told our viewers you weren't going to be on here tonight, but that's all right. I'm glad you chimed in. But yeah, Jake Bentley has, has been the quarterback for South Alabama, but he's been injured the last couple of weeks, and I checked to see if he was going to go on Saturday, and it looks like he got to practice today, but very limited participation. So Desmond Trotter, the backup for the Jags, has started the last couple of weeks, and looking at his numbers, not as much as what Jake Bentley has put up. Matter of fact, his completion percentage is well below what Bentley has done. His average is down. He's already thrown 3 picks compared to 3 touchdowns. So definitely a significant production drop from going from Jake Bentley to Desmond Trotter. I probably said he's on for a bit now. All right. Probably the biggest playmaker for me looking at their and like I said, I hadn't really watched a lot of South Alabama. I'm going to be honest with you. And some of these Sun Belt games are not as easy to catch on TV unless it's like Coastal Carolina or Appalachian State. But even like trying to find highlights at times can be a little bit challenging. But looking just from their stats perspective, Tolbert has already got over 1,100 yards on the year as far as wide receivers go. So it looks like Bentley and Trotter really likes going to Tolbert. Looking at his numbers on the year, he's got 65 catches for 1,140 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year, averaging 17.5. So definitely somebody we'll have to watch out for on Saturday. Their second wide receiver is Wayne. He's only got like 464 yards on receiving with a couple touchdowns. So obviously with a Major Applewhite run offense, they're going to be throwing the ball a little bit more, probably a bit of a high tempo offense to a certain degree. But hopefully Tennessee will be ready for it. The running backs, not so much to talk about. They got, looks like Avery's their leading rusher. He's only got like 498 yards, and I was looking at their game log, and I think like only maybe 2 or 3 games where one of their running backs have went over 100 yards on the year. So I expect our defense to play very well against this South Alabama team. Currently, they have the same record as us at 5-5. 5-5, they're third in the Sun Belt West on the year. Kind of recapping their season so far, they started out 3-0 on the year. Matter of fact, wins over Southern Miss, and then our opener of the year, Bowling Green, they beat them 22-19, and then they barely squeaked out a win against Alcorn State. Then they dropped their first 2 Sun Belt games to Louisiana and Texas State. That Texas State loss, that's very bad. Texas State's one of the worst teams in the Sun Belt. They beat Georgia Southern, which they're probably right next to Texas State. Lost to Louisiana Monroe, beat Butch Jones' Arkansas State team. Of course, everybody's beat Butch Jones this year. And then Troy and Appalachian State, 2 of the better teams in the Sun Belt. So they're kind of just playing at 500 ball. Tennessee should win this one pretty easily. I'll go ahead and give you my score. I'm going to go Tennessee 52, South Alabama 10, 52-10. Brad says, what do you think? David's still on board with 7 wins? Yes, I do. I think these next 2 games are going to be nice wins for the Volunteers, getting to 7-5. And like I said, we've talked over the last several episodes on BSL. Everything that's happened with Josh Heupel coming in, you've had pretty much half the team, maybe more than half the team, transferred or left the program in general, which I guess it would be transferring. And you pretty much had to start from scratch and find out who's your playmakers. And like I said, the transfer portal really played dividends this year. I mean, it is a blessing that it came to be an official this year. It really has helped us out. You've seen what Hendon Hooker has done. You've seen what Javante Payton has done. Hopefully he's going to play on Saturday. I know he got injured early on in that Georgia game. You look at Caleb Trimley, Chase McGrath, Belvis Jones Jr., who's been around a couple of years, but he is a transfer guy. I mean, it's really been a miracle, a blessing. Thank the heavens above it's happened this year, because if it wasn't for the transfer portal and this team believing in Josh Heupel, it could have been 3-9 or 4-8 on the year. And kudos to Coach Heupel and this team, rallying the troops around and possibly going 7-5 on the year. Brad's going 65-13 balls. I'll pull up his score for us. There you go, 65-13 balls. What our founder's saying. I said. So yeah, but yeah, I think, like I said, I think Tennessee can put up well over 50 in this game, and I think they could put well over 50 against Vanderbilt. We'll talk about the doors next week. Tennessee's magic number is 1 win away from going to a bowl game. I think we're going to get there. It's pretty safe to say. And I pulled up here on, I think it's Rock Top Insider here, that they've already got where Tennessee might be going to a bowl game on the year. They picked up various media sources. Brad said, Vandy still has a football team. Not much of one, but they try. But looking at some of the various national media outlets, I saw that ESPN, it doesn't have ESPN's on this webpage, but I saw that both, of course, they have 2 bowl insiders or analysts. They have us going to the Duke Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, where our founder Brad is at. One of them had, I think, NC State. The other one had Miami. USA Today, they have us projecting going to the Liberty Bowl in Memphis to take on Kansas State. So a little bit of a rematch from the Cotton Bowl over 20 years ago when we met. CBS Sports says Duke Mayo Bowl in Charlotte against NC State. Perhaps that'd be awesome for me. Yeah, absolutely. Action Network and Sporting News both have the Music City Bowl in Nashville. Action Network says Minnesota. Sporting News says Penn State. And then College Football News has Music City Bowl against Minnesota too. And then Athlon also has the Duke Mayo Bowl against NC State. So it kind of looks like Nashville and Charlotte are in play to get Tennessee to host their bowl game. I said Memphis probably has an outside shot, but it seems like Memphis likes SEC West teams a little bit more. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and I guess Missouri. I mean, it's a little, I guess, geographically kind of makes sense, even though it's an East team. But, it seemed like they like them a little bit more. I mean, Tennessee would do great in Memphis. But, like I said, as far as how the Liberty Bowl kind of runs their bowl business with the SEC, they like the SEC West teams. And then, but, like Duke Mayo Bowl and Charlotte, I'm sure they would love to have Tennessee. They've had, of course, this used to be the Belt Bowl, and they've had Kentucky before. They've had, I'm trying to think who else has been there. I'm drawing a blank. I know Kentucky was the last SEC team. Last year, I think it was Wake Forest and Wisconsin. Of course, last year's season was kind of weird in itself. Music City Bowl in Nashville, no stranger to us. Also, we've last time we were there, we played Nebraska and had great success out there. So I expect us to be fairly close to home for a bowl game. Like I said, anywhere Tennessee goes to a bowl game, our fan base always turns out big for that bowl site, and to be honest with you, teams that these bowl committees, they love school. I mean, and I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but they love schools like us because they're in the business to make money, and they know how passionate Tennessee fans are that they're going to gobble up the tickets. Plus, it's going to help out these cities and their economy or their attractions for that weekend or week, and they're going to roll in the dough either way. And like schools like us helps out big for us. And right now in more recent times, they're probably not going to get an Alabama or a Georgia. But I guess, and I don't want to use this as a mid school, but call fact to fact. We kind of are a mid of the pack SEC school. Us, Auburn, and even I guess you could say Arkansas, who has a very strong, passionate fan base that travels very well. These bowl committees absolutely love us. Sticking with football, let's go ahead and talk about some of the coaching vacancies that's happened. Currently, right now, as we're recording, there are 10 college football teams that have head coaching vacancies. There's been 12 that schools have fired their programs, but 2 of them have already hired their coach for next year. Are you going to watch the Northern Illinois Buffalo after the show? Probably not. Nah. I probably won't watch any MAC football tonight. Probably go to bed, honestly. Anyways, as far as coaching vacancies go, obviously, LSU is a big school that's looking for their coach next year. USC was the first school to make the jump. And then we've seen, Virginia Tech fire Justin Fuente this week. And obviously, now we're kind of waiting to see what Florida is going to do. More than likely, Dan Mullen will be out at the end of the year. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So what does this kind of have to do with Tennessee? Well, we know if let's say if Dan Mullen is relieved of his duties, Tennessee is going to be facing in next year's schedule 2 new coaches at these programs at Florida, and then we go to Baton Rouge next year, play LSU. So if you're Tennessee, and it all depends on who they want to hire as coach, you're probably licking your chops thinking, hey, we know we can beat Missouris and Kentuckys and South Carolinas, but now here's that next level, especially 2 programs that are sliding back. Brad says, how about Florida? Unreal. Absolutely. It's just mind-boggling. Last year, they were in the SEC championship game and took Alabama to the wire, and I guess even took them to the wire this year. And now it's just that program is just completely unraveled. And Brad says it's really weird because I think Dan Mullen is a decent coach. It's just like that. Yeah, pretty much. And my opinion is of Dan Mullen, watching him in the SEC for the last, how long has it been? 12 years, I'd say, between Mississippi State and Florida. If Dan Mullen has an elite quarterback like a Dak Prescott, Nick Fitzgerald, Kyle Trask, he's going to get you 10 wins. He's going to get you to the New Year's Bowl game or possibly flirting in the playoffs. But if he has a mediocre quarterback like, Tyler Russell, or even with Emory Jones this year, they're 6-6. It's just so mind-boggling to see how it just kind of that quarter. It's like if he's got to have that quarterback if he wants to do anything. Paul asks, how do you think the Vols will do against Villanova on Saturday and the Lady Vols against Texas on Sunday? And I'll dive more into the basketball team before we go off the air, but I'll go ahead and answer your question, Paul. But I think Tennessee can handle well with Villanova. They've already played a very tough game against UCLA. I think it was last Friday they played them, and it was an overtime game. And from what I saw, it was a pretty entertaining game. It was late for where I'm at. I think they can do very well. And then that, of course, if we win that game or lose that game, we get Purdue and North Carolina. So this is a nice potential resume builder for Rick Barnes and the Vols. And as far as the Lady Vols go, they kind of played the level of their competitions the first 3 games of the year. If they play the level to Texas, and hopefully they can at least get a win out of it. But these are good resume builders for both Rick Barnes and Kelly Harper. And we'll dive more into basketball before we head out tonight. But as far as the coaching vacancies goes, the LSU job is open, USC. So like I said, we mentioned how it affects our schedule, but don't be surprised to hear some Tennessee coaches may be considered for coordinator jobs or position jobs, because you kind of have 2 rounds of the coaching carousel. Number one, you have, people that, the quote Gary Allen's country song, Watching Airplanes, they love watching airplanes. And you have the flight trackers. Oh, and our buddies at Barstool Sports jumped the gun last week and saw a public airplane leaving Norman, Oklahoma to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they thought it was Lincoln Riley taking the LSU job. Now, I'm not saying that it cannot happen, but, it was – everybody kind of assumed and kind of took the bait on it and kind of looked like fools for a little bit. But, you're going to start seeing that of who's going where, and then all the jobs opens and it kind of dominoes. And then after that after everybody gets those coaching jobs, they start building the staffs. Now, most likely they'll probably bring their previous staff from their school and bring it to their new school. But, if you're also kind of recruiting coaches too. It's like, okay, I've had my defensive line coach for 5 years, and, in the previous school we were at, we were kind of mid-tier in the conference as far as defense goes, or my defensive coordinator was kind of that. But I'm looking here at Tennessee, and I'm really liking what their D-line coach is doing, or Tim Banks is doing. I wonder if he could come to LSU, Virginia Tech, USC, wherever these schools are. And and these coaches, they're not just turning the nose to Tennessee like, oh, Tennessee's, nothing. They're not looking at, wins and losses or fan bases, kind of like what the national media does. They're looking at like, these players seem to respond very well for Tim Banks or for whoever, any of the position coaches. And don't be surprised if they, decide to call out and say, we would love to have you as our new defensive coordinator, or running back coach, or wide receiver coach, or quality coordinator coach. And like I said, I'll be surprised if anybody leaves Josh Heupel's staff, but I wouldn't be shocked. Paul said, would you cover the ball soccer too? Yeah, I'll mention their game tonight too. But that's kind of what's going on. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen the next 2 weeks with the coaching carousel. And it's going to be and like I said, when you get to that second storm of when they start assembling the staff together, like I said, don't be surprised to see if some of our coaching staff may be considered. And, it could happen, but you just never know. When Paul asked, when you watch a Tennessee game on TV, which is everyone's always against the fan? Yeah, I mean, I will say this, not everybody in the media is anti-Tennessee. I mean, you probably see it a little bit more for football. I will say college basketball, there's a little bit more favoritism. Of course, having Dane Bradshaw as an analyst on the SEC network, he's going to talk a lot of praise for us. I personally like Jimmy Dykes also on ESPN College Basketball. He's always spoke highly of us too over the years. Great Christian guy. I've always been a big fan of him. Like I said, it seems like more of the basketball coverage are a little bit more favored to us. Football, you kind of never know sometimes. I mean, for me, I try and like I said, I root for teams that don't really get a lot of national media exposure. Like I said, with the Titans, the Braves kind of here and there. Nashville Predators really don't. So I don't really get too upset with it. It's just kind of what it is. And the national media, for the most part, at times, especially your New York markets and LA markets, they kind of look down on Southern sports, Southern teams from time to time, and which is kind of unfair. But they like their little bubble of the New York and the Northeast area and West Coast, and I'm not trying to disparage that. I mean, there's some great teams up in the North and in the West, but they're more accustomed to that, and they look at kind of Southern teams, just in a negative way. And we're kind of in the boat, and a lot of the pro sports in the South, don't really get a lot of coverage. Probably the Dallas Cowboys is probably the only one that gets, a pass as far as a quote unquote Southern team. Just kind of how it is, unfortunately. But as far as like now for me, when it comes to sports, I rely on people who kind of follow the team a little bit more and get better insight. And hopefully you can follow us along with Vol Society. The only time they're pushing Tennessee is when they are winning, which is bullcrap. Tennessee's the most improved team I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any other college football team this year that has just totally overachieved what Tennessee has done. And we kind of use another orange team that has a T to their name, Texas. You look at what Steve Sarkisian has done. His first year, and a lot of people like Shark as the head coach at Texas, and we saw what happened Saturday against Kansas at a embarrassing overtime loss. And it's just, and the fan base would want to get rid of him in their first year, which I'm not, I don't really agree with that. But, it shows kind of how much have you improved from the previous staff to where you're at now. And Tennessee has done a good job. Paul says maybe UTSA other than Tennessee. Yeah, UT San Antonio has done a great job. Unfortunately, and they're having a great year, undefeated on the season. But Conference USA is nowhere near where the SEC is. Tennessee, like I said, the national media, had us projected to go, winning 3-4 games. Some analysts said they may get to a bowl game, but it's going to be kind of a grind. And now here we are on the doorstep, knocking at 6-5, possibly going to 7-5, and might finish the season 8-5 with the bowl win. And for Josh Heupel, for everything he's went through in year one, it's just a miracle. And we talked about the transfer portal that's really became a big thing, and just players responding to him. And I saw an interesting video on Twitter. It was they took a clip of when Tennessee played Alabama. This is when Jeremy Pruitt was still the coach, I think 2017, 2018, of the CBS Sports sideline reporter. She asked the question, what can this Tennessee team do to win this game against Alabama or win throughout the year? And Coach Pruitt says, well, if I can recruit 25 more guys to play to my level, then we can win. And then they cut to Josh Heupel and kind of worded it the same way, but instead of Coach Heupel kind of burying the team, he's like, I will go to battle with these guys each and every week. And that just shows how much Coach Heupel believes in his players, believes in his team, and the team is responding back to him. And, we mentioned about Florida, and, possibly that team's kind of turning their back on Dan Mullen, and maybe Texas with the situation down there. And, like I said, it's all about how the attitude of the team is when it comes to how their coach treats them well. And we've in the last 2 years, we've seen, what not to do to a team. And this year we've seen what you should do to a team, and especially in kind of today's modern college football world. Brad says, I can tell you how excited I can't tell you how excited I am to have Heupel as our coach. Just an incredible guy to have. Absolutely. Uh, yeah, it's very amazing to see. And, even at the beginning of the season, it's like, who's this Josh Heupel guy? And, you know, maybe some people who don't really follow other college football teams outside of Tennessee or the SEC is like, oh, some guy that came from Central Florida. And, what's he going to do? And it's just he's won over the fan base so well. And I'm excited to see what he's going to do next year and in the years to come if he sticks around, and I think he will. As like I said, next year is going to be a big year as far as bringing players in. The recruiting numbers is still kind of low compared to where we probably should be. But still got 2 signing day periods to go. Plus, like I said, transfer portal. It's out there, and Tennessee hit the jackpot with it this year. Paul says, so do you think he can make us good as he made UCF? I think so. Like I said, it's a long, it's a long way to the top in the SEC. But and like I says, I think as long as Saban is there, Bama's going to be at the top every year. And the SEC West is very, very deep. Thankfully, we only play 2 teams from the West every year. But the East, to me, next to Georgia, I think Tennessee can make big strides. And we got to see what happens with Florida. Brad says he'll even do better. And I think he can. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see who Florida goes after as a coach. Like I said, we've already beat the teams we're supposed to beat in the SEC East. We've already got wins over South Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. We will get a win over Vanderbilt at the end of the year. So like I said, we right there. We're right there at number 2, number 3 in just 1 year. It's just crazy to think. I would love to play Florida again. I think we can beat them handily. Pittsburgh, I think we can make a better game at them. Love to play Ole Miss again, and it's not trying to get moral victories or say what is, but it's just I really think this team has responded a lot better at week after week after week, and it may not be the wins, but I think it's going to. But it just plays dividends. A couple questions. Brad says we beat Florida and Pitt without question if we play right now. Paul says, how much does South Alabama get for coming to play us? Does it work the same as when we invite FCS schools to play us? I hadn't heard of the price tag for South Alabama. I guess it all depends on the conferences, and I think FBS schools are just a tad bit. I'm trying to think how much we play Georgia State. How much we pay Georgia State. Brad may remember that. I think it's a tad bit cheaper to play like FBS schools compared to SCS schools. I know SCS schools, we will give out probably close to $1 million. I'm sure South Alabama is probably well over $200,000, maybe $250,000, maybe even more than that. I guess it just all depends on. I guess if they're at FBS school or SCS schools, I think they're a tad bit cheaper. I will say this. I understand why we play schools like South Alabama and Tennessee Tech. Obviously, they're easy wins, and you do help out the other school, to fund their program to a certain degree because, they don't have conference TV contracts like we do in the SEC. And like I said, you're kind of helping out. But I kind of wish sometimes we don't really. Brad said $950,000 to Georgia State. Okay, so right around there. I'm assuming conference games, neither team gets paid. No, they don't. The only thing they get paid is TV contracts for that. Of course, every SEC game is on TV. Well, all of the games are on TV or streaming channel. But like conference games, you don't get paid. You go by what the SEC schedules. The non-conference games is all the non-conference games that Tennessee schedules is through the University of Tennessee, and so Danny White now will be making those decisions, and which sometimes it'd be next year, and sometimes you may sign a contract and say, okay, we'll say the University of Memphis. Okay, Memphis, we want to do a home and home with you. What's the best time to do it? Okay, well, we got a date for 2028, 2029. Okay, we'll come to we'll do Knoxville in 2028 and Memphis 2029. And then, okay, we'll say $675,000 for the game, and I'm sure Memphis will probably pay us to come play at the Liberty Bowl. So it kind of works hand in hand. College basketball does that too. Of course, they're a little bit more frequent with their games instead of waiting 6-7 years down the road. But yeah, it's all it does. It's what. In what ways does Tennessee football program gets funding? Combination of things. We mentioned TV contracts, ticket sales. Boosters is probably your number one avenue as far as money goes, because you got a lot of rich people that live in the state of Tennessee and a lot of millionaires that live in Knoxville that pays astronomical numbers just to get a press box suite at Neyland Stadium, and that all goes for the boosters. And Brad says boosters, baby. Absolutely. The Haslams, they're the richest family in the state of Tennessee, and they are big donors along, and Mayfield's Dairy Farm has a press box up there, and I'm sure First Horizon Bank, who's been the official bank of the Vols for the last 30 years, I'm sure they donate a lot. And also sponsors, we mentioned First Horizon, the natural gas company, Axles Logistics. I've seen their company pop up several times this year as far as advertising goes. So it's boosters and sponsors and TV contracts. I mean, college football isn't just a money gobbling machine right now, and which is I guess can be good and bad at the same time. Also, merchandise sales. This goes to Tennessee. This hat, this sweatshirt I'm wearing, all these posters back here, and merch. Little gizmos and gadgets. Definitely gonna go back to the University of Tennessee also. Paul says, would you rather be sidelined to a Vols game or in a press box? I guess it all depends. A press box, you probably feel a little bit more comfortable. You kind of see the whole field as it is. Plus, it's you get free food and a little bit more comfier chairs. Sideline, you get all the action, and you probably can rub shoulders with ex-VFLs or random celebrities, local celebrities. So it's kind of cool to see that. Of course, you also got to watch out for rowdy fans too. I would probably right now just say the press box, but both sound like great experiences. All right. Well, let's see. Brad says below 40 degrees box. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll kind of go ahead and Morgan Wallen, Paul says, yeah, he was at the game on Saturday. There's a lot of people. It was really nice to see a lot of people in town this weekend. Peyton was in town, and Candace Parker and Monica Abbott, Todd Helton. It's kind of funny, just during the commercial. They didn't. I don't know if they showed this on CBS. Maybe they did with Peyton, but during the commercial breaks, it was like they honored Peyton during the commercial break. Then here came Candace Parker. Then here came Todd Helton and Monica Abbott. And it almost became a game for us. Like, okay, who else is coming out here that they're going to honor? So it was kind of funny. Brad says, how was the Georgia fans at the game? Very drunk. No, they were a little more rowdier this time than previous times. That obviously, they can puff their chests out a little bit more for being number one in the nation. They were, like I said, they were a little more rowdier, a little bit more in your face, more obnoxious. Not really at me. I know they were kind of rowdier to other drunk ball fans, so it was just kind of, one drunk fan meeting another drunk fan. Not as bad as probably the atmosphere as Ole Miss goes. Well, I don't know. I didn't really see a lot of too many Ole Miss fans there. Brad says sold out or many empty seats. Close to sold out. I say there was 100,000. There was a lot of Georgia fans there. They probably, I would say, took up probably 35% of the seats at Neyland. They were definitely filled up their side and a little bit more on our side, and then that little crow's nest corner that they throw a bunch of visitor fans up there, and then they kind of sporadic throughout the stadium. So a lot more Georgia fans there than what I kind of thought. Kind of similar when Alabama comes into town. Alabama gobbles up a lot of the tickets that we kind of resell. So, but it is what it is. And so, anyways, we'll kind of go ahead and talk about basketball really quick and soccer before we wrap up. A lot of busy events going on at the University of Tennessee. Tennessee basketball team is playing in the Hall of Fame tournament this weekend in Connecticut. Real quickly, I'll read these two football questions. Do you think Georgia's going to win it all? I think they will. I think whoever wins, I think they can get by Alabama in the SEC championship game, and I think they got a clear shot to win the whole thing. Do you think Georgia will do what they did back in 1980? You always hear trash about Tennessee not winning since 1998, but not about Georgia. I know. Well, every once in a while you'll hear about 1980, but I think because of the recent success with Georgia, it's not been as bad. I'm sure if Georgia was in the same boat as us and they kind of hopped it up, like, we're still relevant, then you'll hear a lot more. Well, you hadn't won since 1980, and here we are in 2021. So it just all depends on how close they are. We've use the Atlanta Braves. Braves hadn't won the World Series since 1995, and you kind of hear about it. But it's going to be eventually they may win, and I think they can this year. Miss K says Lady Vols got to get better. They must. Yeah, big game on Sunday with them against Texas. The Longhorns come into town. Like I said, they've kind of squeaked through some 3 wins. Southern Illinois, Central Florida, and South Florida. Like I said, just kind of playing a level of their competition, kind of squeaking out wins. Probably may have lost that opener, unfortunately. But yeah, they got to get better. Like I said, we'll find out a lot about this team on Sunday when Texas comes into town. And then we mentioned the men playing in the Hall of Fame tournament, playing number 4 Villanova. Nova's already been tested this year with UCLA. Very excited to see how this team can match up with a potential Final Four matchup or Final Four team in Villanova. I'm excited what Kennedy Chandler has done so far this year. Won SEC Freshman of the Week. I'm sure that's not going to be the only time he's won Freshman of the Week this year. Folky got to play Sunday against ETSU. Did what he could. Just coming back from a thumb injury. Nice to see the alley-oop, so obviously it seems like his thumb's a little bit better. I just want to see the rest of the team kind of step up a little bit more. These are good resume builder games for both, as I mentioned, for Coach Barnes with Villanova. And then if we beat Villanova, we get the winner of Purdue and North Carolina. But if we lose, we still get Purdue and North Carolina in the third-place game. And then for Kelly Harper, like I said, Texas is a big game for us. Like I said, we'll find out a lot more about the Lady Vols on Sunday. Women's soccer team playing in the second round of the NCAA tournament. They shut out Lipscomb last week. It's crazy to think how that tournament's like from round 1 to round 2 is like a week, and then it starts like it's like a couple of days after that, or like the next week or so. But they take on Washington State on Friday afternoon, Friday night. And then if we win, we will play the winner of Wake Forest, Michigan in the third round of the NCAA women's soccer tournament. So a lot of big things going on at Tennessee. Volleyball's wrapping up their season this week. They got a doubleheader with Alabama at home. I think it's Thursday and Friday is when they play them, and then they'll start. They don't have an SEC tournament for volleyball. They go straight into the NCAA tournament, which Tennessee should be a lock for that. So we'll follow along. Hopefully the volleyball team can have a great success there. Swimming and diving started up. So we'll hopefully Tennessee's women's swimming and diving team are SEC champions from a couple of years ago. This case says, also, I'm tired of football players acting like they are hurt and they are not. Yeah. We mentioned that after the Ole Miss game, and even we saw the Georgia game with, us running the up-tempo offense, and the only way to kind of slow us down is to have the quote-unquote hurt players. I really think we're going to see a real change in the offseason as far as, if you're going to do that, your player's probably going to have to sit out several plays or a drive. I threw the suggestion, that should be a delay of game, which, I understand injuries happen in football, but if you're getting ready to snap the ball and then all of a sudden you go down with an injury, to me, that's not an injury. I thought maybe a delay a game or a unsportsmanlike penalty. So I could see some sort of a penalty, or maybe that player's going to have to be out for an entire drive. And it's really bad. And we saw, definitely the last two home games where it's really been bad. Me and you touched on that Saturday. Georgia wasn't ready for the up tempo. No team has so far. Yeah, you're right, Paul. Like I said, Georgia at the beginning was not ready for it. And, it's just, like I said, I wasn't too surprised by it because, in a lot of, and especially in the SEC, you hadn't seen too many up-tempo offenses what Josh Heupel's brought in. And, and Lane Kiffin from the year before does the same thing. So runs the same playbook pretty much. So I think we're going to see more and more of that style of play in football, very up tempo, get down the field very quickly, and defenses are going to have to, really step up and get ready for that. If not, it's going to be almost like Big 12 football to a certain degree. And I'm afraid like schools like Vanderbilt, they're going to be in for a rude awakening maybe for the next several years. I was thinking about this week. We talked about coaching vacancies. Jeff Lebby, who's the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, who, like I said, as far as the Florida vacancy goes, it wouldn't shock me if Florida kind of goes in that direction and maybe get Jeff Lebby as their coach. Because I think Florida with Dan Mullen's offense, it was innovative at the time when Tim Tebow was there, but now everybody's kind of copycat that, and now and that's almost now old fashioned. It's going to be very interesting. Paul says Buffalo has tried to run up tempo tonight in the game, but they need to practice more. They don't have their ducks in a row. Yeah, Lance Ledford, who was the former coach at Buffalo, who's now at Kansas. Like I said, I'm sure they're probably just still getting used to not having him. And like I said, kudos to Kansas for getting a win against Texas. And they scored 57 on the Longhorns. Now, granted, Texas scored like 55, I think. So, very high-scoring game in that one. But there's been some great discussion so far. We have gone almost 1 hour for the South Alabama preview. I was a little scared at the beginning that we weren't going to have too much discussion, but thank you very much. This is what keeps the show going. And like I said, very exciting times coming up at Tennessee. Very busy week. You got football coming up on Saturday with South Alabama, Tennessee basketball with Villanova and Purdue, North Carolina, the Lady Vols with Texas, volleyball, soccer, everything kind of going on at the same time. It's just been great. Kevin says, I just hope we can get some good recruits for the next year and can compete and win. Go Big Orange. Love the coach and what he has done this year. Absolutely. Right there. Paul says Tennessee has proven a lot in that Georgia game. Yeah. getting to Kevin's point first, I think as far as, some recruiting is going to be a big key factor. I think the first national signing day, the one they have in December, is coming up in a couple of weeks. I need to double check that. And if it's the date I'm thinking, we may do a Ball Society Live on that. Thank you, Miss Kay. And then also the transfer portal is going to be a big key factor. Who's going to go in there? And, we've already talked about earlier tonight, I'm sure you're going to have LSU players hit the transfer portal, Florida players, Virginia Tech players. It all depends on who their coach is going to be, their new coach, and the commitments and the relationships will be kind of it's like now broken. And if you're a kid at LSU or Florida or maybe Texas, and you're thinking, boy, look what's going on in Knoxville, Tennessee. Man, they got a pretty cool program, a pretty hip program, with everything happening. Almost an hour shows your throat okay. It's doing all right. I even ate a spicy chicken sandwich and it's still doing pretty good. So, but as far as they're probably looking at Tennessee like, man, Tennessee, it seems like that program's real fun. It seems like the coach and the coaches have a great relationship with the players, kind of letting us be ourselves. And definitely, where's the Dr. Pepper? No Dr. Pepper. I've got some. I didn't bring it out tonight. The black uniforms and the just kind of the pop and circumstance of what's going on. Maybe Tennessee's a place to go. Definitely. Fall like that one. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I'm excited to see the future of Tennessee football, where it's going in the next direction in 2022. Kevin agrees with me. Like I said, it's going to be very fun. And like I said, we still got 2 more games. Well, 3 more games. We'll find out our last opponent the day after the SEC championship game, when they announce all the bowl games. May have to do a Ball Society Live on Bowl Selection Sunday, a special Sunday night edition, and find out who we get to play, and then I'll talk about some of the other bowl matchups along the way. Yeah, Paul knows that because Paul used to work with me back in the day, so he knows I have a Dr. Pepper quite a bit. Not the most healthiest drink, but it's probably one of my favorites. Bryce says that would be awesome. So we'll have to come up with that. I know, like I said, next week, which is Thanksgiving Eve, we will do the Vanderbilt game. Like if hopefully you'll join us next Wednesday night. But if you have to cook or entertaining family and can't join us next Wednesday night, I wish everybody from the Ball Society Network, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Hope you enjoy it with your friends and families. If you can't join us next Wednesday night, totally understand that. But we wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and definitely take some time during your Thanksgiving meal to remember those who may not be able to experience Thanksgiving with their families, particularly our military and our first responders to that. Miss Kay says she loves her Diet Dr. Pepper. Very nice. So we got to get Dr. Pepper a sponsor for our show if they can reach out. Also, a lot to be thankful for. Absolutely, Brad. Especially everything that's, everything that's happened in our world the last couple of years. I've really looked myself in the mirror and really reflected of what to be thankful for, and definitely with family and friends. Will we have a Thanksgiving show? Who knows, a holiday? Yeah, we're going to do a show next Wednesday night. Who knows how many viewers we'll have next week. I know it's Thanksgiving Eve, but we do want to cover Vanderbilt. And then I will probably take the first. So December 1st, we may take a week off, and then may do a special Sunday night show during Bowl Selection Sunday, and because we'll find out who our opponent will be for the bowl game whatever bowl team picks us up. So So definitely. So next Wednesday night we will have a special Thanksgiving Eve show. Like I said, hopefully you can join us. If not, I understand. It's right during the holiday week. But like I said, we will talk about Vanderbilt next Wednesday night, and then like I said, that December 1st show may take that day off, and then we'll come back on that Sunday night for both selection Sunday, which I believe believe it'll be like the 4th or something. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. So keep just stay posted on Vol Society Facebook page, and also we'll for our YouTube viewers, we'll post the link when we do go live for that. This case says gobble gobble gobble, don't eat me, eat more chicken. Definitely so. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We've gone 1 hour for South Alabama. Thank you for joining us tonight. For all of our viewers on Facebook and YouTube, everybody chatting along throughout the night. Thank you very much. Greatest fans, not only in college football and all sports. Thank you very much. Brad says 1 hour show. Definitely so. All right, we'll talk to y'all next Wednesday night as we preview the Vanderbilt Commodores, and then we will finish out the 2021 football season, and then we should, and just stay tuned to our Facebook page and our YouTube page and all across of our social media platforms when we do a special bowl preview show. So definitely check it out. We had made it an hour. I was sweating about the first 10 minutes when no one was talking. But thank you very much. I'm going to go drink a Dr. Pepper and enjoy the rest of the evening. Have a great night, everyone. And always, good night and go Vols.